In number 1A, we're adding decimals, so we have to make sure that the decimals are lined up and we bring the decimal point down into our answer. Then we add just like we would any other multi-digit numbers. For letter B, we're subtracting decimals, so the decimals must be lined up. We must bring the decimal point down into our answer, and then we subtract just like we would with any other multi-digit numbers. For number 2A, we're multiplying decimals. We do not line up the decimals when we multiply decimals, but we must make sure that after we finish our first round of multiplying, that we put a 0 as a placeholder, and then continue our second round of multiplying. You also, once you have your product or your answer, you must count the number of decimal places in each of your factors. So for example, in your first factor, you've got 1 decimal place. In your second factor, you've got 1 decimal place. And so in your product or your answer, you should have 2 decimal places. So at the end of your number, you're going to scoop 2 places to the left, and that's where your decimal is going to go. And for 2B, we are dividing decimals. In order to solve this question correctly, we have to remember that there should be no decimal in the divisor. So we must move that decimal point as far to the right as we can. Here we have 1 scoop. If we scoop once in the divisor, we must scoop once in the dividend. So now I'm going to have my decimal between the 2 and the 8, and I'll have to shoot it up into my answer, and that is where my decimal place will go in my answer. Then I would divide just like I would any other multi-digit number. Number 3, a large banquet room holds 288 people with each table seating 8. How many tables can the banquet hall have without going over its capacity? So I know that the large banquet room holds 288 people, and I know that each table seats 8. The question is asking me, how many tables can the banquet hall have? One strategy I can use to solve this problem is by visualizing or drawing a picture. I can think about tables seating 8 people, and I know that I'm going to need 288 people overall. Then I can ask myself, what operation can I use to solve this problem? Would I do 288 plus 8, minus 8, times 8, or divided by 8? And so, since I have 288 people overall being split into tables of 8, that tells me that I'm taking 288 and dividing it into groups of 8. If you need help with numbers 1 and 2 at the bottom, you can use my explanations for them up at the top because they're the same types of problems. Number 3, Michael drives to work each day. He travels a total of 160 miles at the end of the work week. How far is Michael's house from work? So I know that Michael drives to work each day, and a work week is 5 days. I also know that he travels a total of 160 miles at the end of the work week, and they're asking, how far is Michael's house from work? So I need to figure out how many miles it would take him just to go from home to work one time. Well, first, I can think about it by thinking that 160 miles is being divided over the course of 5 days. So really, my first step would be to think about 160 divided by 5. Again, I apologize for the lack of neatness in my writing. But once I have that, I also have to think about how on each day he is driving to and from work. So really, each day is split into 2. His drive to work and his drive from work. So whatever answer I got from here, I am also going to need to divide that by 2 in order to figure out how far Michael's house is from work.